Alright, so we're on a 2004 Ford Ranger. I'm going to do a water pump and fan on it. The fan is kind of wobbly on it. I don't know if there's a lot of play in the fan, and it's got a lot of cracks around it. So we're going to go ahead and replace that before it falls apart. And we got some noise coming out of the water pump. So the first thing we're going to do is just get rid of this little shield here so we can get to the air intake hose. Those should be 3 7mm bolts. And all it is just a little plastic shield for the throttle body. And then we got 2 regular worm clamps for the air intake hose here. We're just going to move that out of the way. Those are 8mm in case you're wondering. And I'm not going to completely disconnect the air intake hose. Just going to kind of set it out of the way. Now on these fans they screw onto the water pump. There's a couple of different ways you could do it. I have a special tool I use to unscrew it. You can find the right size wrench or even a pipe wrench and stick it on there, and sometimes I've had luck. Leave your belt on too before you take it off. Kind of helps hold it if you don't have the right tools. And I've also found if you don't have anything to hold the water pump when you're trying to get this off, if you stick a big wrench or a pipe wrench or something on there and just whack it real hard with the hammer, whack it real hard with the hammer, a lot of times it'll come off and get loose. Alright, sorry about that. Sometimes that dog can't keep his mouth shut. So, as I was saying, you can put a big wrench or pipe wrench, whatever you have, and whack it with a hammer real hard, and that a lot of times that'll break that loose. When you're loosening this up, you want to go towards the passenger side. If you're standing in front of it facing the truck, go to the passenger side. Now you can get these tools and rent them. This tool here goes up over the water pump bolts and it holds the water pump in place while you use this tool to break it loose, which is how I'm going to do it real quick. So you just kind of slide this down in there over the water pump bolts, and you use this to hold it. And of course you slide the other tool down and put your ratchet or whatever you have on it. And like I said before, we'll kind of go towards the passenger side. Now, once it's loose like that, you can just go ahead and kind of turn the fan off. Normally, you'll just spin the fan and turn it off. So I'll go ahead and spin it out of there, and then we'll take a look at it. Alright, I did pull the radiator shroud up. All it is 2 10mm bolts right at the top here on each side, and then the bottom just slides into a little bracket. And there goes my leg. The bottom just slides into a bracket on the bottom, and you just pull straight out. Your transmission cooling lines, if you have automatic transmission, will kind of be in the way, but you can finagle it out. And here's the fan I was talking about. See if I can get you kind of a close-up of it. It's got cracks everywhere, and they go all the way almost to the top, to where the blade's at. So we're going to go ahead and change this out and not risk the fan falling apart and going through the radiator or something stupid like that. So anyway, yeah, now we'll get this out of the way, and then almost down to the water pump. We're going to, before we take the belt off, we'll go ahead and loosen the power steering, or the water pump pulley bolts on it, and that should you know, hold it for us while we loosen it. Yeah, it might be wrong. Alright, let me get something to hold this. A lot of times you can put more tension on the tensioner and that'll hold it. Let me get something real quick to hold that, and then we'll pick it back. Alright, so all I got is a 3/8 ratchet in the tensioner. Yeah, I'm going to put tension on the tensioner. Imagine that. While I loosen these, break them loose, and that way you're basically having the belt and the tensioner hold it while you break these loose. Otherwise, they're just going to sit there and spin. You got 4 of them that hold the pulley on. That's pretty much all there is to it. Alright, once you get the 4 bolts out on the pulley for the water pump, it's 410 mil. Go ahead and take the belt off. You won't need that anymore to hold anything. Now's a good time to check your belt, make sure it's in good shape while you have it off. This one looks like it's pretty new, or newer. Now your pulley will come off. You can kind of set that off to the side. And now we'll go ahead and start draining the radiator and start getting these hoses off, and start taking the bolts off for the alternator, or for the water. Alright, so here's the water pump here. This is, you know, obviously with the pulley off and all that good stuff. Now I already took the clamps off of the lower radiator here. I took it off here, going to the intake manifold. Now the clamp here that goes, I'm guessing, to the heater, the clamp, someone actually put it on backwards. This looks like this is not the factory water pump. And you can see here, I don't know if you can see, hopefully you can see, right here it's leaking. There's a whole bunch of corrosion, and you can tell it's been leaking right there a little bit. But anyway, the clamp is on back, it's on the inside. So what I'm going to do is take all the bolts out of the water pump and hopefully pull it away from the engine a little bit, and then get that clamp off. And then when I put it back together, I'll put it back on there right. But anyway, it's just a bunch of 8mm bolts going around the perimeter. So I'm going to go ahead and snatch those out of there real quick, and then we'll pull this water pump off and see if we can get that hose off with the water pump loose from the engine. Yours will probably be facing this way, because I don't think the factory would have put it on like that. I'm not sure, but it's been a long time since I've done one of these, but I don't remember the clamp being facing the inside on the other ones I've done. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and take those loose. There's about 7 or 8 bolts around the perimeter. We'll snatch those out. Alright, so here's kind of the water pump off the car. It's 14 bolts all together. Just go around the perimeter of it and remove all the 8mm bolts. You have the lower radiator hose here. You have the upper crossover for the manifold, intake manifold, and then you have the heater hose down here. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple to get off. Now we're just going to go ahead and clean the surface down there real quick on the block, and then we'll get the keep saying alternate, get the water pump and the fan, and we'll go ahead and reinstall it. So I'm going to go and get the parts real quick, and we'll put the gasket on and clean that up down there, and then be ready to put this back together. And you can see here all the corrosion coming out of the hole here. That's not good. So anyway, we'll go ahead and get the parts. Alright, once you got the engine surface nice and clean like that is, you're ready to put the new water pump on. I'll go over and show you the new water. Alright, here's the new water pump. On these gaskets, this red stuff is just, it's basically a, spray gasket sealant. It's a tack. It's basically a glue by Permatex. Just kind of spray it on. It doesn't really seal anything. It's just kind of a glue to hold the gasket while you're putting it back on the engine. You don't need to put any kind of sealer or anything on this gasket. Just let the gasket do its job and you're okay with it. So we'll go ahead and like I said, this red stuff is just glue. It won't hurt anything. We'll go ahead and put this back on and start it, and then we'll start torquing. Alright, once you get all 12 bolts started and torqued down, it's 89 inch-pounds is the torque spec for the water pump. Go ahead and put your 3 hoses back on, and then you're almost home. We're going to replace that fan real quick. I'll show you how to do that. It's real easy. And then we'll put the fan back on, and we're almost there. So 89 inch-pound on those bolts. Torque them down, and just put your 3 hoses back on. Got the top one, the heater hose, and the lower radiator hose. Alright, so here's the fan. We're just going to pop the clutch out of it real quick and replace it. Now you will have to take, unless you buy the entire assembly, which I don't know if they even sell that. I think they sell everything separate. You will have to take a clutch out. So it's just 4 10mm bolts. The clutch should drop out. Little C's in there. Been in there, I guess, 17 years. So again, the reason why I'm replacing this is we have huge cracks down this fan here, and it's just a matter of time before it falls apart completely. You can see it's all stressed and cracked right here, and that's almost to the end there. So anyway, we'll throw this away, and then this is your clutch, and all that is we'll just bolt that back up and on the new fan, and then it'll be ready to put back on. Alright, so that's real straightforward. Just put the clutch in there, tighten the 4 bolts, 10 mil, and now we'll go ahead and spin it on there with the shroud. Kind of put it in there together at the same time, because you can't get the fan in with the shroud in. So we'll slide everything in together, and then we'll start that fan onto the water pump. Alright, so it's kind of a dance here. You just kind of put the fan and shroud in together. The shroud's going to get hung up on these transmission lines if you have an automatic transmission. Just keep working with it. Get the fan started, just get it on there by hand. And then you can just spin the whole fan toward the driver's side fender or your battery until it goes all the way on the water pump. And once it stops spinning and it's tight, take your special tool or whatever you use to take it off and go ahead and torque it down pretty tight. It's reverse thread, so you're going the opposite way of what you normally think, but it makes it much easier if you rent these tools or you have these tools. Alright, so make sure your radiator shroud is in the little brackets on the bottom. They just slide down in there. Then you got your 2 10 mils up top. It holds it in the rest of the way. And you're almost done at this point. There's really no special bleeding procedure on a Ranger. You're just going to put your hose back on and your little little throttle body cover, fill it up, turn the heater on, let it circulate. with the heater on and idling, go ahead and fill this up till it's full. Take it for a drive, let it cool down, check it again, and you should be good. Like I said, this belt looks pretty good, looks pretty new, so I didn't change it. It's a good time to change it if your belt looks old or worn. This one you can still see the writing on it real nice. There's no cracks on the ribs. If you have a lot of cracks underneath on the ribs, just go ahead and change it. It's real easy to change with the shroud out, and that's basically about it. It's a pretty straightforward, easy job. You know, can't really think of anything more to add to it. So I guess that's about it. So that's a water pump on a 4.0 Ranger. If you have any questions, you can either leave it down below or click the About page and email me directly. Other than that, I guess that's it. Hopefully we'll see you on the next one. And as always, have a good day and God bless.